Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tempe City Council regular council meeting. Item number 1 is call to order. Council meetings can be watched in real time via Cox Cable Channel 11 and at tempe.gov/tempe11. Members of the public may also attend the meeting virtually through Microsoft Teams. If you have signed up to speak on items later on in the agenda, please know that as the presiding officer, I have the discretion to introduce items out of their regular order as listed on the agenda. I may also change the order of items from time to time to accommodate scheduling, to allow us to address items with a large number of speaker cards, so those wishing to speak on those items don't have to wait until later in the meeting, or to otherwise expedite the business of the meeting. If you wish to speak on an agenda item and you haven't filled out a speaker card yet, please make sure to fill out and submit your completed card to the city clerk prior to the item coming forward for council discussion. I will call your name when it is your turn for public comment. Next up here, item number 2, I would like to ask everyone who's able and willing to please stand and join me for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Tonight's agenda has a number of items that the City Council must consider in order to conduct city business. Guidelines for conduct at City Council meetings are on the table near the entrance for those in attendance at tonight's meeting. We will now play a video with the proper protocol for ensuring the appropriate conduct at City Council meetings.
The City of Tempe welcomes public comment at this time. Disruptive behavior will not be allowed. Continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. We need to be able to hear everyone in the room. Behavior that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of any city council meeting is not helpful and is not permitted. This includes behavior both inside and outside of the council chambers. Should individuals inside the council chambers become disruptive so that city business is not able to be conducted, the mayor will first ask that the individuals allow city business to be completed. There will be time for public comment during the call to the audience portion of the meeting. If no cooperation, the mayor will issue a verbal warning and let them know that the continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If there is still no cooperation, the mayor will issue a second verbal warning and let them know that the continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If there is no cooperation after asking and 2 verbal warnings, then the mayor will ask security officers to remove only those individuals who are causing the disruption. Security personnel should not engage in any way, but only escort them from the council chambers. If individuals refuse to leave, security personnel shall warn them that they are trespassing and that the next step will be arrest by a Tempe police officer. Tempe officers may have to arrest if individuals refuse to leave. Charges for trespass and disorderly conduct may apply, as well as other charges. Should anyone be asked to be removed, the mayor will recess the meeting.
Thank you very much. We're now going to play a video conveying the City of Tempe's Native Land Acknowledgement Statement.
We wish to acknowledge that Tempe is the homeland of the native people who have inhabited this landscape since time immemorial. These ancestral lands of the O'odham, known as Pima, Peeposh, known as the Maricopa, and their ancestors extend far beyond our city. This land continues to be spiritually connected to the O'odham of the Salt River Pima, Maricopa Indian Community, and Gila River Indian Community. We accept the responsibility of stewarding those places and solemnly pledge to consider this commitment in every action.
Next up, we have item number 4, meeting minutes. Tonight I'll be assisted by Councilmember Keating. Councilmember.
Thank you, Mayor. I move for approval of items 4B, 1 through 4.
It's been moved by Councilmember Keating and seconded by Councilmember Chin. Okay. Seeing that, please vote. And that passes 7-0. Next up, item 4B, acceptance of board, commission, and committee meetings. Councilmember Keating.
We just did that, Mayor.
No, we did 4A?
There was nothing under 4A, so I did 4B.
Oh, okay. Well, wait a minute now. That's not the item that's up here. So let's go back here. All right, let's do that again, actually.
Sorry about
So-
that, Mayor.
We just did item 4A1.
Right. So Mayor, I move we approve items 4B, 1 through 4.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Keating and seconded by Vice Mayor Garland. Please vote. And that item also passes 7-0. Next up, reports and announcements. I have a couple this evening, which I will come down for.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it.
All right, first up here, we have item 5A2, Human Trafficking Awareness Month Proclamation. And is Rachel Richter here this evening? Oh, there we go. As well as our Community Health and Human Services staff, led by Tim Birch.
Me too.
Excellent. All right, well, this proclamation reads, whereas the Speak Up, Stand Up, Save a Life movement presents an ideal opportunity to help bridge the gap between young people, our local community, government, and law enforcement in a positive way. And whereas our local schools are facing preventable suicides and tragedies that may include warning signs in person or online, but bystanders and friends remain silent among threats or cries for help. And whereas our young people can be empowered to seek help for themselves, be advocates for their peers, report concerning posts or comments to school representatives or law enforcement, and adults can receive training to help spread the message that it's okay to care enough to speak up, stand up, and save a life. And whereas Arizona students from 169 public, charter, private, and tribal schools have learned the message and created student-led impact projects in their schools and communities that have impacted over 500,000 youth in the state of Arizona. And whereas Arizona schools, students, parents, educators, police departments, and community organizations are encouraged to coordinate a variety of awareness and prevention activities designed to make our communities safer and promote a healthy environment for all children and adolescents. Now, therefore, I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the City of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare January 2025 as Speak Up, Stand Up, Save a Life Month in Tempe, Arizona. No. Yeah. We did skip.
Great job. Everyone, big smiles. 1, 2, 3. One more. Don't blink. 1, 2, 3. Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you know what? Where's that one?
I think they hold it.
All right. Next up here, item 5A3, 2024 Annual Report for City of Tempe Boards and Commissions. So each year, the city's boards and commissions are responsible for preparing and submitting an annual report to the mayor and city council. The annual report details the membership, accomplishments, goals, attendance, and the overall work of the boards and commissions. The 9th annual 2024 Boards and Commissions Annual Report will be published to the City Council Weekly Information Packet and on the Boards and Commissions webpage tomorrow, Friday, January 10th. On behalf of the Tempe City Council, I'd like to thank the 268 residents and community members who serve on the city's 28 boards and commissions. We are grateful to have engaged individuals willing to take time away from their own very busy lives and family and friends to make a difference in the city which they live in. Next up here, item 5A4, which is the Phoenix New Times Best of Phoenix 2024 Award. And I'll see if I can have Brenda Abney and Josh Roffler and the museum team come up and join me here in the front. So the Tempe History Museum has received a Best of Phoenix 2024 award from the Phoenix New Times, identifying the museum as the best guardians of local history in the greater Phoenix area. The award is in recognition of the museum's work collecting and preserving thousands of Tempe artifacts and historic photographs, as well as for their long track record creating memorable and innovative exhibits. Phoenix New Times says in part, the Tempe History Museum staff works hard to catalog and showcase as much of the city's past as possible, preserving its legacy for future generations. What sets Tempe History Museum apart from the other local historical institutions are its engaging and fun exhibitions. So congratulations to the Tempe History Museum for being recognized as a leader in local history.
Sneak on in there. Great. Looks good. There we go. Great. Big smile. 1, 2, 3. We can do one more like that. 1, 2, 3. Don't blink.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Absolutely. All right, next up, item 5B, City Manager's Reports and Announcements. Madam City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor. No announcements this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, let me. That brings me to item number 6, public appearances. According to the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the City Council may only discuss, respond to, or take action on matters listed elsewhere on this agenda for discussion and legal action. The purpose of the open call to the public is to allow individuals to address the City Council on any issue within the jurisdiction of the City Council. No person shall speak more than once, and there is a limit of 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers present at the podium must state their name and city of residence and provide a speaker card. Members of the public shall refrain from making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks and from becoming boisterous while addressing the City Council or while attending the meeting. Speakers will be taken first come, first served in the order in which the cards are received. Speakers' visual aids and appearances by phone or recordings are not allowed. The City Council is prohibited by state law from discussing, responding to, or taking action on matters raised during the call to the public, even if asked to do so by a member of the public, so long as the subject discussed by the speaker is not listed as a specific agenda item for Council's consideration for discussion and legal action. Individual members of the Council may respond to criticism made by speakers, ask staff to review a matter, or request a matter be placed on a future agenda. I've got 2 people here this evening for public appearances. The first one is virtual, and that's David Sokolowski. Is Mr. Sokolowski online?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Please state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
My name is David Sokolowski. I live in Tempe. Why is Tempe criminalizing urban camping? We know there is a shelter and housing shortage. Homelessness has increased 20% nationwide, and we're not building enough. Are these people going to die in the streets? The city forgot the lessons of the police advisory group. It's not the job of the police to deal with social problems. I complained about the signs the police department put at bus stops because we have issues like street racing and you're trying to arrest people for sleeping. They were removed and I was told you wouldn't use the police. If you're going to spend money for criminal justice, you can rent an apartment and not waste police hours with arrest and release. We already pay park rangers to play cat and mouse. If you criminalize urban camping, it tells us that every policy the city has created is failing, and now we're going back to relying on the police department. Why are the policies failing? Because we're not solving the root cause of the problems. The NIMBY's intent is to obstruct shelters and affordable housing. They use a false narrative to justify the prejudice, even though shelters reduce crime. There are 50 million drug users in the USA, and it could be anyone. Less than 1% of them are homeless or unemployed. Most of the homeless never use drugs, and half of them have jobs. But we stigmatize them and make excuses. By stigmatizing the homeless, we make it more difficult for everyone to accept treatment. Research shows that first responders struggle with addiction as much as the homeless population because they have high rates of anxiety, depression, and PTSD, but they still operate in the city. It's not that complicated. We have to invest in housing first. Denying the homeless shelters will not remove people from the parks. Building a shelter provides an alternative option. The intent of SB 1162 is for Tempe to house its own population, including the homeless. We need to take responsibility, and sending people to Mesa doesn't solve the problem. There are 10,000 homeless and less than 5,000 beds in all of Maricopa County. That's why I think it's cruel and inhumane to criminalize things like urban camping. It's imperative for the health, safety, and general welfare of our community to support new homeless shelters in Tempe. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Vincent Stanley. Please come forward, state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, Vincent Stanley. I live in Tempe, Arizona, and thank you, Council, for giving me the time to speak for a couple minutes. First and foremost, well, this is about Save Shalimar. Shalimar holds a special place in my heart. It started when I was 10. I first got introduced to golf, taking lessons at Shalimar. And then ever since, I golfed here and there ever since. And then golfing then ramped up during the pandemic. I don't know if you guys remember, you guys probably remember, everything closed down, even gyms. So at that point, I had to find other avenues for an active lifestyle. So that consisted of running laps around the neighborhood, shooting hoops. And then luckily I had my third option, down the street, just take a quick 9-hole course at Shalimar. So that was pretty cool. Thanks to that, I was able to find another, golf became one of my favorite hobbies. And then I was able to add something to my bucket list, golfing in the rain. So that was really cool. Thanks to Shalimar, I made that happen. So it was pretty cool golfing in the rain. The surrounding neighbors were asking me, hey, they were inviting me to come inside and take a break. I'm like, no, I know what I signed up for. I'm finishing this. So I finished the 9 holes in the pouring rain. I knew what I signed up for. So I was able to sign that cross that on my bucket list. So that was awesome. It continued my passion, my hobby for golf. And then also thanks to Shalimar, I was able to introduce some friends into golf. A lot of them were intimidated because they never swung a golf club in their life. But thanks to that, I was able to introduce them to Shalimar. It was an easy, it's not an easy course, but it was easy to introduce them to a 9-hole course versus like an 18-hole grueling course. Shalimar provides the same challenges like most courses with the water hazards, the sand traps, and the narrow fairways. But it was 9 holes, so we were able to just, if their attention span was a little shorter, they were able to still finish those 9 holes. So thanks to Shalimar, I was able to introduce them to the game of golf because they were intimidated otherwise. So they loved it ever since. Hopefully they're still golfing. I'll follow up with that. But yeah, really hope you guys reconsider and save Shalimar. I don't know if there's any 9-hole courses around here. I know Grass Clippings, I think, is 18. There's a 9-hole option, but I really hope we can save Shalimar. It's great for the community, and it provides, it provides a friendly approach to learning the game of golf. So it's really good for like people around the suburbs to just learn golf and not get so intimidated by it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have this evening is Mario Martinez. Please come forward, state your city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Mario Martinez. I live in Tempe. I am here to speak about a compliance with the, or lack of it, possible lack of it with the Attorney General's directive considering the open meetings laws. As we know, according to the Attorney General, 3 times under the direction of Corey Woods, the city used public resources to conduct 3 illegal meetings. I read the letter. And there were some points in there that I have no evidence that the city has yet complied with. I addressed a message to Corey saying that I want the portions of those executive sessions should be made public for the meetings in question. I did not receive that. I received some cursory Corey Woods evasive reply saying, oh yeah, we're going to look into it. According to that letter, it should have been done. That letter was written October 9th. Also, according to this letter, the city had to complete training about the open meetings law by December 9th. That was over a month ago. I have not received that. Corey, it's your responsibility to disclose that information to not only me, but the other public. We have a right to understand how our money's being spent, and I would appreciate it if you stop being so evasive on this
Mr.
point.
Martinez, as you know, I don't handle open meeting law requests. The city attorney, along with the city clerk, handle any public meeting records. I do not personally do that. You know this. You're very aware of this. So if you want to direct your questions to Mr. Anderson or our clerk, please, but I don't actually hand those over. You know that.
Who's in charge of them, Corey? Who's in charge of them?
The mayor and council.
Well, then how come I haven't received those records? It is your responsibility, and you're always passing it off.
I will let Mr. Anderson
You're
address
always
you.
passing it off to someone.
No, I'm speaking about what the charter actually says and what my responsibilities and the council's are versus what the city attorneys are. I'm just simply stating a matter of fact.
Well, then why hasn't the city attorney given it to me, and
I
you're in
will
charge of it?
I will ask the city attorney.
Mayor, we've done those things. You'll recall November 21st, we had the training. The matters are published. I'll be glad to provide Mr. Martinez with links and stuff to the publications. So.
Okay.
What about the executive sessions? Those things should be made public. When did that happen?
We'll provide Mr. Martinez all the links to the.
That's my point. These steps should have been completed by December 9th. It's over a month. These people, you're the one that signs off on their employments. It comes back to you, Corey. And you're the one that violated the law. You're the one that you're the one that had the most impact on it. Let's see, you illegally discuss this social media monitoring program without letting the public be involved. That's wrong. Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker I have this evening is Garrett, I think it's Garrett Rokos? Garnett, excuse me. Please come forward, state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Sorry, I have broken foot.
Oh, no, my handwriting is terrible. Don't worry about it.
I have a letter that I'd also like to submit to the committee. If that's
Sure,
okay,
please.
when we're done. My name is Garnet Marcus Rokas, and I am a Tempe resident. I've lived in Tempe since 1998. I do not believe that the East Valley Health and Housing for the Homeless will be a good addition to our community in the Victoria Lanes neighborhood.
Oh, sorry, no clapping, please, but please go ahead.
Thank you, sorry. And I do not believe it will be a good addition to our community because it will allow our residents alone the burden of risk should any of the shelter's residents decide to leave and or act out. In researching homelessness statistics, I read that 31% of homeless individuals suffer from serious mental illness, while other stats report 66% of homeless populations suffer from general mental illness. Other stats include bipolar being at 11.4%, with schizophrenia between 2 and 20%. Alcohol abuse is between 30 and 40%, while drug abuse is between 10 and 15%. You can check all of these stats online. Alcohol and drug abuse alone are 1 in 3 in homeless populations, showing chronic substance use at 36%. Crime has unfortunately been associated with substance abuse and mental illness. In 2018, my home in Victoria Victory, I'm sorry, was broken into by a mentally ill male who was high on drugs. The police acted like this was normal for the area. We also had a drug house on our street at the time who was feeding the homeless community drugs. That house is no longer there. In addition, we have also had serious, we've had several neighbors that have had crimes committed towards them, where my house, we have video surveillance and we give that over to the police anytime something has happened, just in order to be good neighbors. Since the passing of Prop 312 this past November in Tempe, our neighborhood has finally gotten our neighborhood back. I've seen people walking their dogs again. I've seen little kids going back to Esquire Park. There was a point after the light rail application when the homeless community started entering our neighborhood where we couldn't even use Esquire Park. Drug use in our local park has made it almost unusable. We have seen drug deals and busts. We have seen adult men hide on drugs bathing in the splash pad meant for our children. We have seen homeless adults having sex in their cars parked in front of Esquire across the street from houses, whereas residents have children play in their front yard. So since the passing, that has really stopped the passing of Prop 312. In addition to this prop, I just want to say, like, in addition to having no information on the type of shelter that the East Valley Health and Housing for the homeless will be, the current location will allow these populations at risk direct access to our front yards where we live. I took available, I know there's available lots.
I'm sorry, that's time.
Good. I will say, here's my note if you'd like to read full. I really do think where the arena, what is going to be for the Coyotes thing, should be a great place for the homeless.
Thank you. All right, that's all the cards I have this evening. Is there anyone else in the audience? Yes, please come forward. Oh, sure, okay. Oh, okay. Is there another one? Oh, you know, it's probably, is it for that issue? Okay, yes, that'll be coming later on. Yes, you got it, absolutely. Perfect. All right, is there anyone else in the audience who wants to address the council this evening? If so, please come forward. Yes, please. Please state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm still filling out my card. I'll get it to you momentarily after this.
Sure.
My name is Sean Marcus. I am a resident of Tempe. I have lived here my entire life other than my service in the military. And I've lived in Victoria Acres since 2015. I've seen so many changes throughout the entire city of Tempe, since it was farmland until it's become skyscrapers everywhere. And I will say in 2015, since we have been unable to use our neighborhood's parks or resources because of the homeless and drug addict population that never leaves our neighborhood. I know the recent SB has changed that with allowing us to have freedom in our park to where we can actually go back to it. You can see families for the first time being able to go to this park since I've lived there in 2015. And when you guys are trying to create this new law for this homeless shelter to be built there, you're bringing this back. For the first time since 2015, we have been able to take a breath of fresh air in our neighborhoods, that we finally have some substance of getting this back and this freedom so that we can actually go outside without feeling like we're gonna be assaulted or attacked or raped or God knows what else, because this is a daily basis in our neighborhood. And it just recently got better, but you're gonna be bringing this back. I spent a tremendous amount of my time growing up doing community service at the Andre House and Cass for years and years and years. I do not want my front yard in my neighborhood turned into that. I've seen the damage this does to those communities. And from the first guy that was speaking, and he talked about all the housing for all the beds that need to be filled, this property is not going to suit that. That's clearly showing this is not a suitable or realistic option. You need a bigger amount of property, and the city of Tempe has access to these lands. There's a gigantic plot of land that the Coyote Stadium was going to be built on. You have thousands of people that need beds and services. You're going to have to combine all these services for these homeless because they're going to have transportation issues. This lot on this tiny corner is not going to suit that. You need to come up with a better idea of how you're going to help and support these communities, because daisy chaining these places all around Tempe is not the answer. And I'm sure you guys know it. The corner of Broadway and McClintock was a small homeless help center. That's not even suitable to help that population. And now you're putting these all around town and trying to shuttle these homeless people back and forth to services, and that's not realistic. That is not going to work. You need an actual community that can support them and help them go through these changes that they're going through.
That's time. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, the next card I have is from Raymond Devine. Please come forward, state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Raymond Devine. I live in Tempe. It's good to see so many old friends up on the board here tonight. I'm going to kind of disagree with some of my neighbors. I'm a resident of Victory Acres. I've lived there since 1991, when the boys used to hang out in the corner selling drugs and congregating and whatever, the kind of thing that Victory Acres used to have a reputation for being a bad neighborhood. So I've been there for 34 years, and I've seen a lot of changes. I'm kind of concerned with some of my neighbors don't even know how to pronounce the name of the neighborhood or the name of the park. So I question how much they really know about our neighborhood. We have a problem with homeless. I'm not going to give that. I'm not going to disagree with that. We have, and a lot of it isn't just the park. We have had homeless in the park since it was built. But I will say that over the last few years, with cooperation of the police department and the park rangers, it has gotten better. But when you solve a problem here, they move down the street to the other park. They go back and forth. We've known this. We've seen drug paraphernalia in the park down at the end of MacArthur towards the curve there. So the problem's not going away. I actually support this new project because 60 homeless beds, what I was told by somebody who's working on the project, means that 60 people will now have a place to go instead of sleeping in our parks or sleeping in our streets. We know they have a place to go to. It's not going to solve the whole problem. We have a big homeless issue in Tempe, but at least these aren't the people who are sleeping on our sidewalks, on the sidewalks where our kids walk to go to our parks and go to our schools. It's a small step. It's like the old say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, this is a bite out of the elephant. And I'm hoping that we can get this project done. I know my friends are going to be concerned about the homeless that will continue to visit the neighborhood. That problem hasn't gone away. Until we find a way to resolve all those hotels and motels that have been dives for these people for the last 30 years, 40 years, we're not going to make that problem go away. Until we find more homeless shelters to put these people in, the problem's not going to go away. Tempe has a homeless problem because we know, many people know that we offer services for homeless. They know to come here to find food, to find showers, to find support, to find medical help. So we either cut that out and make them go somewhere else, or we deal with the problem. And as I say, one step at a time. I've heard one comment that said, what's going to make our property values go down in Victory Acres? I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, our property values in Victory Acres have been depressed since I've lived there. And we didn't even have sidewalks until 1995 because the way the city was treating that neighborhood for so long. And now it's being recognized. We see redevelopment coming in. We see improvements. We see investors. Homes are being rebuilt. I don't think this is going to scare them away, but I do think that we need to get the people, the homeless people out of the parks. Where do we put them? This is a start. So I support this project, and I'm looking forward to see it continue.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else wishing to address the City Council this evening? If so, please get my attention. Yes, please? For this topic in particular? Well, no, we're actually going to come to it later on, but anyone, any other general public appearances, I should say, please get my attention. Okay, seeing that, I will close that portion of the meeting and move on to item number 7, which is the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and will be enacted with one motion by the City Council unless an item is removed for separate consideration. Members of the public may remove public hearing items for separate consideration. Public hearing items are designated as public hearing item at the beginning of the item title. Council members may remove any item for separate consideration or to declare a conflict of interest. If a council member would like to declare a conflict at this time, the city clerk will provide the council member with a disclosure form. If you wish to speak on a public hearing item, please fill out a speaker card and submit your completed card to the city clerk prior to the agenda item coming forward for council discussion. I will call your name when it is your turn for public comment. The consent agenda this item this evening is listed as miscellaneous items 7A1 through 7A8, awards of bids and contracts items 7B1 through 7B18, and resolutions items 7C1 through 7C4. Any agenda item designated as public hearing item can be removed by a member of the public for separate consideration. If anyone would like to have a public hearing item removed, please get my attention now. Yes, Councilmember Hodge?
Yes, I would like to remove 7C4.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any members of the public looking to have a public hearing item removed, please get my attention. All right, seeing none, council, any other agenda items that you'd like to have removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration?
Move to approve, Mayor.
Okay, okay. It's been moved by Councilmember Keating to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Councilmember Adams, with the exception of item 7C4, which has been removed for separate consideration. Please vote. And that item passes 7-0. Next up, item 7C4 is to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor and city council to formally recognize the city of Tempe's participation in the Sandy Hook Promise Program. Councilmember Hodge.
Thank you, Mayor. I pull that because I'm proud to share what our city is the first one in Arizona to adopt a resolution to support Sandy Hook Promise. This is a vital and initial advocacy for policy for both state and federal. And gun safety. Also, I want to just privilege, we're one of the first in the country to do it. So, and this will affect all of our public schools. I would like to give a really big shout out to our human resources, Tim Birch, and our Care 7 team for the collaboration with our school districts and Tempe Union and Tempe L and Kyrene. There has been a lot of tragedy over the years when it comes to school violence and school shootings. And there is no such thing as we can prepare for it. So it's always a reactive scenario. And this is gonna be more of a proactive scenario for us. Our school districts are already working on the Sandy Hooks on their end. And for us as a city, I congratulate and thank my colleagues and all my city staff for all they do and work to, and the police department for everything that's being done to help out with that in the Sandy Hook Promise. And for that, I would like to move to approve 7C4.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Hodge and seconded by Vice Mayor Garland. Please vote. And that item passes unanimously, 7-0. That brings me to the non-consent agenda, which is item number 8. All items listed on the non-consent agenda will be considered separately. Agenda items scheduled for introduction and first public hearing will be heard, but will not be voted upon at this meeting. Agenda items scheduled for second public hearing and final adoption will be voted upon tonight. Council members who may have a conflict of interest may abstain from voting on a matter, and the city clerk will provide the council members with a disclosure form at this time. First up, item 8A, miscellaneous items, bids, contracts, and resolutions. The first item under the section is 8A1, which is to hold a public hearing for the appeal of the Development Review Commission's decision to approve a use permit to allow an institution providing temporary housing in the CSS zoning district for the East Valley Health Housing and Human Services Center located at 2423 East Apache Boulevard. The appellant is Albert Avalar. The original applicant is RSP Architects and Tempe Community Action Agency. Also, just a note that this is a quasi-judicial item. So I just wanted to state for the record here, the City Council sits as a quasi-judicial body when hearing appeals. In this situation, the City Council will conduct the public hearing in a similar fashion to that of an appellate court. Pre-meeting contact with the City Council on quasi-judicial matters is prohibited. Any materials or conversations concerning the item shall only be presented to the City Council at the scheduled public hearing. Per the Zoning and Development Code, an appeal shall be limited to the issues raised in the petition, ZDC Section 6-803. Issues not raised in the petition for an appeal are not considered. Tonight's public hearing is an appeal of the Development Review Commission's decision to approve a use permit to allow an institution providing temporary health providing temporary housing in the Commercial Shopping and Services Zoning District for the East Valley Health Housing and Human Services Center located at 2423 East Apache Boulevard. The appeal was filed by Albert Avalar and meets the legal requirements for an appeal under the ZDC, which is Zoning and Development Code. The original applicant is RSP Architects and Tempe Community Action Agency, otherwise known as TCAA. So I'll first call up the appellant, Albert Avalar, to make a presentation.
Hello, my name's Albert Avalar. My seat of residence is Mesa, and I filed a objection to this construction of this homeless shelter. I have a parcel on Lebanon Lane and of Horplex, and I get complaints as it is currently in a situation where I have tenants complaining to me about homeless that traverse from the light rail to a square park and loitering on my property and obstructing the security of the tenants and supposedly breaking into vehicles or items missing. And this has been going on for years. I've contacted the Tempe Police Department. I talked to Tempe Crime Prevention and a detective. And I spoke to a professional appraiser, and there is a devaluation of the property with this center being built. And he said it's just a matter, there's 100 different variables that apply here to figure out the devaluation amount. So in the previous individual complaining about or that was for it, does not reside on the street that is on the frontage road to the square park. So it wouldn't affect him as much. So my location is right adjacent to the Hearing Impaired Center, which fronts Main Street, and the homeless drifts from the light rail station over to Square Park. In the process, they come across my property and wander in there loitering, and I found a young lady with clothing back there and asked her what she was doing, and she said, I'm taking my clothing. But she was in the property, on my property, adjacent to a house between the wall of the Hearing Impaired Center and the house that I have on the property. So she had, as a homeless person, she had her items stashed there. So she's just trespassing and loitering. So it's an ongoing issue. And I put money into it, the property to maintain it and upgrade it. And I feel this is a total opposition to what I'm trying to do, is better the property. And you bring, as it is, there's a homeless issue. And what you're doing is adding fuel to the fire, as far as I'm concerned. So my issue is every time I back out and leave, in Lebanon Lane is the main street into Victory Acres. And you put that structure right in that close proximity to my property in Victory Acres. So all the homeless, the one main street into Victory Acres is Lebanon Lane, from 101 to not to the end of the subdivision. That is the main south entrance. So those are my objections to it. And I have an issue with the timing of the card that was sent out. I received it on 2 days prior to the deadline for the appeal, because it was mixed in with the political paraphernalia, which is during election time. So it seems to me like it was a way to slide it in with people not being notified properly, and then you have a 600-foot restriction here. So I'm sure that it would affect people beyond the 600-foot rule you have as far as notification. So when I had questioned about that, that's why I did take some flyers around the neighborhood and asked some of the tenants or the residents what their mindset was on this, and they were not aware of a proposed homeless shelter. So those are my objections to it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to look to city staff or council. Do you have any questions of staff regarding the staff report? Councilmember Amberg?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I've got a really quick question, just reading through the DRC minutes. I don't know if Jeff can answer this, but Jacob Payne, who's a senior planner, stated in the minutes that he advised that a neighborhood meeting was not required for this before DRC, so I was just wondering if that is normal.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Councilmember Amberg, that's correct. In the meeting minutes, it's noted that a neighborhood meeting is not required for the scope of applications that were submitted. So that was a major development plan review and a use permit.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, Jacob, did you guys ask, or advise the petitioner for the use permit whether, that you thought maybe it would be a good idea for them to actually get some feedback from the neighborhood?
Councilmember Amberg, yes, in the early stages of the project, at first there was an indication that they might need a variance, which is a process that does incur a neighborhood meeting. That was resolved through the planning of the site changing, but it was recommended to TCAA, the applicant, to host a voluntary neighborhood meeting just to be proactive in reaching out to the community about their proposal.
Mr. Mayor, Jacob, did that happen?
No.
Would it be okay if I asked TCAA why they opted not to?
That would be coming up right next, actually, so, great. Okay, any other questions for Jacob? Council, any other questions for staff? Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. All right, that means I'm going to now bring up the original applicants. So if there are representatives from RSP Architects and Tempe Community Action Agency who'd like to make a presentation as well, please step forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Deborah Arteaga, Chief Executive Officer at Tempe Community Action Agency. I'm here with Bob Brandstetter, our Senior Manager over Shelter Services at TCAA, and we're very proud to present tonight on the Health, Housing, and Human Services Center, slated for construction at 2425 East Apache Boulevard. I'm going to click. There may be guests present in the audience tonight who are unfamiliar with TCAA, so I thought we would start off with showing a photo of our very first location. TCAA is the city's largest and longest-standing nonprofit human services organization. Our first location was in the La Victoria neighborhood in the back of this market, and this is a picture of that first office. We've been operating programs in Tempe starting in this neighborhood since 1966. Growing and evolving those programs as city population expanded and human services needs grew. Today, TCAA's span of programs are serving about 35,000 adults and children in Tempe. This is equivalent to 1 in 7 Tempe residents. TCAA is also the operator of Tempe's very first emergency shelter. We launched the shelter here in Tempe in 2006. It has been operating in residential neighborhoods throughout Tempe under the iHelp model since that time. Development of this site began over 3 years ago and involved several city departments. It has been the subject of prior city council discussions relating to development along Apache Boulevard. Our site plan has undergone 4 official reviews by police and other city departments in the past year alone. It's important to point out that shelter is not the only program that will be housed at this building and is not the only population that this site will serve. This site will have space for 7 human services programs on site, of which shelter is one of those programs. The span of programs are designed to address poverty, hunger, and homelessness, which we know are longstanding issues, not only in this portion of the city, but throughout our city. There will be space on site for community partners and volunteers. and a wide array of resources so that in one location they're able to work their way from situations of crisis all the way to self-sufficiency. The programs at this site are designed to have a direct impact on neighborhood and family quality of life. Programs on site will include those that feed the community. TCA will offer a market-style, choice-based food pantry so that neighbors in that community can shop for themselves and for their families for the type of food that they want and prefer. We will operate a commercial kitchen that prepares nutritious meals for our Meals on Wheels programming and lunches served at Tempe Senior Centers. All this in conjunction with the Escalante Community Garden, which is operated by TCA in the nearby Escalante neighborhood. Recognizing that poverty rates are highest in Tempe zip code 85281, we'll offer programs that improve household income and family stability, including services like financial education and coaching, services that address credit issues, income supports for families of children in the nearby elementary schools, and flexible funds to deal with crises such as an unexpected medical bill or an expensive car repair bill. And more importantly, programs that address homelessness, not only to intervene when homelessness occurs, but to prevent it from happening in the first place. TCA has, for a long period of time, since the 1960s, been the city's core provider of emergency rent and utility assistance, assisting landlords and tenants with making sure that an eviction does not occur. We have resources for immediate placement into housing so that seniors and adults don't have to go to shelter in the first place. And then a very structured shelter program that we'll be describing tonight for adults and seniors to prepare them for housing, to shorten the duration of homelessness, not to prolong it. And transitional housing, primarily for seniors who are going to struggle and may need to save money for a longer period of time before they can afford to move into housing. The site will also offer public spaces for fostering collaboration, things like other nonprofit partners that will be providing services on site, like connecting individuals for healthcare resources, community involvement opportunities for student interns, for community and business volunteers, and neighborhood gathering spaces for things like neighborhood meetings. Narrowing in on the shelter program specifically, I will ask Bob to speak to the uniqueness of TCA's shelter model, followed by an overview of the new site's safety and security features.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Starting with my experience in this world, I have been in leadership in 6 different shelters across the valley, Phoenix, Mesa, Tempe now. I have launched 4 of them from the ground up. And I have been to many of these meetings where obviously the community has concerns, and I want to validate those concerns. We get it. The outcome is a complete flip side, is what we've seen is that community that has those concerns ends up seeing the work that gets to be done and what happens, and they end up becoming donors and volunteers within those shelters. And I think that's an important aspect of all this. Maybe the real question should be is how do we get involved, not why we stop it. The unhoused has been expressed over many times here. They're here, we get it. This is a resource. This is an opportunity. If you look at what we're doing here, the financial help with relocation, we divert people back to family or friends that they've been transplanted here in Arizona and then ended up homeless. We work on getting them back home. We take care of that. We assure that they're getting back to a safe environment. We're dedicated to those who are actively pursuing the solutions. The idea is to end the recidivism. It's one thing to take somebody off the streets and put them in a shelter. That's the days of the old. The way this program works is we're now providing the tools and the resources to assist them not to go back to that life. And many times it's a life circumstance that's caused this. Maybe we should be asking the question as to how did they end up becoming homeless? What is the why in all of this? And then what is the solution? So, wraparound services. We're one of the first agencies, from my understanding, in the entire United States that's instituted a community health worker in the shelter. This is an opportunity to treat what many of those concerns that were brought up, mental health, substance abuse, physical health, anything that could be a catalyst to why they're homeless. We're providing a solution. Financial aid, we've talked about that. We have a housing program that assists people to get back on their feet. As part of that process, they're going through budgets. They go through, life skill changes. We assist them in those processes to help them get through to understand what it's like. We also have, housing-oriented case management. Every person that comes into shelter is vetted. That's an important fact in all of this. They go through a background check. We understand that, there are certain aspects of, the community that we want to protect as well. Safety is obviously that concern. As part of that process, they have a 90-day window in which to complete this. We help them get vital documents. We help them, obtain employment by offering resume building, mock interviews. We coach them through that, and then we provide the housing assistance on the back end. And I think that's the important part of this. It's a model of success. So time limited, we talked about the 90 days. I spent 20 years also prior to this in the security business. So I'm pretty much very much aware. I've done schools, I've done commercial properties, I've done mixed use properties. You look at our site, it's got limited access points, it's gated. We have, 24/7 staffing that's gonna be there. So it allows us to be able to, zero tolerance, working with our staff to be de-escalation and, crisis management trained, so we can deal with these situations when they arise. But the campus will be enclosed. We also have a long-standing partnership with Tempe first responders, when needed. We have a direct pipeline to the Hope Team, Care 7, as well as Tempe Police Department. And I will say this, as I stand before you, I spent 10 years homeless. I was part of this community. And if it wasn't for organizations like TCAA that allowed me to find some resources and support to change my life, I couldn't be standing here in front of you telling you that it's possible. And what I learned through it all is if I can change a life, then they can change a life. It's exponential. So this project, I think, is essential to the community. It's going to provide an opportunity to address the concerns of the community with all these people that they're talking about around the street and in the parks. We're giving them a safe space. We're giving them the opportunity to change their lives. And I think that's the important act. It's a solution. It's not a problem.
The decision before City Council tonight is one that can help everyone to win. We don't want this to be a win-lose situation. By upholding the decision of the DRC, the neighborhood benefits, the city benefits, and lives will change. This project fully aligns with the City of Tempe's general plan objective, which points to encouraging development of temporary short-term units for homeless individuals and families. It is led by a trusted and proven community-based organization. It offers solutions to issues that are already present in these neighborhoods. It involves an experienced and reputable shelter provider with a model that moves committed individuals from homelessness to housed. It also brings an $8 million investment through the State Department of Housing, the Arizona Governor's Office, and Maricopa County to Tempe to address homelessness through this project. It offers long-term financial benefits to the City of Tempe, benefits that are gained when we reduce homelessness, we reduce poverty in our neighborhoods. In closing, the development of this project has spanned over several years. It has gone through extensive review by city planning, by law enforcement, by community enhancement liaisons, and was approved unanimously by a citizens-led development review commission in November. It is a project that's responsible and that is responsive. We request City Council to deny the appeal of the DRC position and support in helping move this much-needed project forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Amberg, I know you had a question.
Debbie, Mr. Mayor, Debbie, can you walk me through your decision-making process? I don't know if it was done on a staff level or from a board level on when the city told you guys that they thought it would be a good idea, and I've got to tell you, I'm like blown away that it wasn't a requirement. I think it really should be. So we may need to change that later on down the road, but why you opted not to hold a community meeting or to ask for, substantial community input from the surrounding neighborhoods, especially in light of the passage of Prop 312?
Yes, thank you for the question, Council Member. City TCA did invite neighborhood residents, and we held a meeting in November, and this was reported back to city staff. We took notes and attendance at that meeting and are happy to share that. We also reported this back to our board of directors, our leadership over our nonprofit agency.
Sure, if you'd like, sure.
Mr. Mayor, Jeff, did you guys get that information from them?
Councilmember Amberg, I did not receive information about a public meeting in the format that we typically see when we receive, we call it a public involvement plan. There's a report that the city will receive from applicants who host the meeting. And if typically what we do with those processes is also have city staff in attendance at the meeting.
Sorry about that, I think. Oh. He's got it, so. I'm sorry. Jacob, could you repeat that just because I know we were all a little bit distracted with the light show?
Yeah. I did not receive information in the format that we would typically receive when an applicant holds a neighborhood meeting. Even though it was requested as a voluntary process, we would still expect the format and timing requirements that we impose for required neighborhood meetings, which implies 15 days prior to the hearing. So this happening in November would not have met that requirement. So it wasn't, information about this meeting wasn't provided in a typical format that we see.
Mr. Mayor, then I guess, Debbie, since we don't have access to that information because it's not in any of our packet of information because it wasn't given to them, can you give us a kind of an overview of what happened in that community meeting?
Yes, you bet. And probably because this wasn't a mandate since the zoning wasn't being changed through this property, we didn't have access to the kind of documents that would normally be submitted if it were a mandatory process for zoning change. But the summary of the meeting, there were 22 people in attendance, and they expressed similar concerns, positive and concerns that you've already heard tonight, issues that have been prevalent in the community and in the neighborhood and in the park for a long period of time. Ultimately, by hearing the full presentation of the range of programming that will be at that site, the summary of the attendees was that they felt this is a solution to issues already in their community and appreciated our invitation to have an open dialogue on at any point if there were concerns in the future as the project rolled out.
Mr. Mayor, Debbie, did you make any changes to your proposal as a result of that meeting?
No, we did not make changes to our proposal as a result of that meeting. Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Any other council members, any further questions? Yes, Councilmember Adams.
So what percentage were in favor and what percentage were against the project at the neighborhood meeting?
We did not call for a vote, council member, but all of the attendees appreciated the information and felt much more confident in the program design after hearing all of the details similar to what we presented tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Chin?
Thank you, Mayor. Clarification, when was that meeting?
In November.
Do you recall the date?
I could go back to my appointment book and look.
Okay. Was it before or after the DRC meeting?
It was before the DRC meeting.
Okay. Yes.
It was a
if you would
Saturday
let us
morning
know.
in November.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Council, any other further other questions? Oh, yes, Councilmember Chin.
Sorry, it was a different topic.
Okay.
Sometimes names speak to intent. So I'm curious, can you talk about who the facility is intended to serve? Because it's called the East Valley Health, Housing, and Human Services Center.
Yes, you bet. Thank you. That's a great question. Currently, TCA has a site at 2146 East Apache, just west of the 101. At that site, we operate a pretty large food pantry operation, which serves individuals in Tempe and surrounding communities. That will be moved over under the new food pantry, market-style food pantry model at the new site. We have health and wellness programming that will stay at that 2146 nearby location that serves East Valley residents. So we have some programs specific to Tempe residents and some programs that are open East Valley wide.
Sorry, this is, I'm getting flashbacks of serving on TCC's agency review. What percentage would you say are Tempeans that you serve?
Yes, you bet. TCA serves about 35,000 unduplicated individuals annually, and about 33,000 of those are Tempe residents. You bet.
Thank you. All right, Council, any other questions? Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. Okay, now I'm going to open up the public testimony portion of this public hearing. And I will start by once again just reading the cards in the order in which I received them. First one is Louis Silverman.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I reside in Tempe. I have for 44 years. I am currently on the board of TCAA. I was chair of the board last year, and this is also my second stint on the TCAA board. I was on the board about 15 years ago as well. The just important points that I'd like to point out is that this project was highly vetted by our board, and our board is composed of representatives of the city from different walks of life, from city employees to private employees and retired folks and across the board. It's been vetted by the city, I think, on 4 different occasions, and the conclusions, which are in your packet, point out a few points, which is that this project is consistent with city goals, that it would not contribute to the deterioration of the neighborhood. It would not contribute to the downgrading of property values. So a lot of the concerns, I think, are more fear-based, but I'd like to point out that the TCAA has supported the homeless through the iHelp program for many, many years, and that has been a highly successful program. People have been rehabilitated. They've been able to get back to jobs and back to their home. And I don't know if you remember a fellow by the name of Dave Talley, but about 15 years ago, he was an iHelp customer. And Dave had hit hard times, like a lot of these people do. They get hit hard times by divorce, bankruptcy, yes, some drug use, yes, some mental health issues. Dave was a customer. He found a backpack with about $11,000 in it. Did Dave take the backpack and the money? No, he did not. He turned it into the COO at TCAA, and they were able to find the owner of the pack, who was taking the backpack to go try to buy a car. So that's why it had $11,000 in it. Well, because of that, and because of the notoriety that gained, Dave got a new start on life. He was able eventually to start his own landscaping company, and to my knowledge is still running that landscaping company. So the fear that the homeless are a threat to the neighborhood and a threat to us is just really fear-based and not fact-based. These are people that get back out on the street. This facility will be secured. The city staff has already pointed out that there will be security on hand. So really, I just would ask that the council overlook the fear and really look at the facts and that fact how deeply this has been vetted and overrule this appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker I have, and I hope I get the name correct, Dr. Firas Jode. Please come forward. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for giving me the chance to talk. As property owners within the Apache Light Rail Corridor, we strongly oppose the establishment of this facility. This proposed use will negatively impact the corridor development by 1, diminishing the property value. Number 2, hinder the economic growth, and it will definitely discourage investment and redevelopment of the property on this corridor. And I know for a fact that there was a plan to develop a new apartment building on Apache and Lebanon, which will provide 61 new units, and that project has been put on hold due to this new proposal. And it will also impact the hearing impaired individuals who live at ACL Trails. I think we are all familiar with that facility which serves the hearing impaired individuals. And I have not received any notification of the meeting which was mentioned about the neighborhood meeting, and I wish we had the opportunity to provide input about this project before the approval was done by the city. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Eric Silwick. Oh, there we go. Please come forward. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Eric. I've studied, worked, and lived in Tempe for over 20 years. I own a small business providing affordable housing to Tempe residents, and I'm on the board at TCAA. I'm here to express my support for Tempe Community Action Agency's new facility project and to address the concerns raised in the appeal against the use permit. First and foremost, TCAA is a respected, experienced, and reliable nonprofit agency with a longstanding commitment to addressing human service issues in our neighborhoods and across our city. For over 5 decades, they have worked collaboratively with the community, partners, and city leaders to provide critical resources and support for those most in need. One of their most notable successes is their operation of an emergency shelter within residential neighborhoods here in Tempe. For 19 years, they have run this shelter responsibly, with great care for the community and its residents. Their model is not a generic drop-in shelter, but a program designed for individuals actively committed to overcoming homelessness. This is an important distinction. TCAA's shelter is a place of hope and transition, not a magnet for prolonged homelessness. On multiple occasions, I take my 7 and 10-year-old children to serve their homeless friends meals in the evening. Their clients are often employed adults or seniors working towards stable housing. These individuals are already striving for a better future, and during the day they are not loitering at the shelter. Instead, they are working, attending appointments, or taking steps towards securing permanent housing. The shelter, and indeed the entire new facility, provides a structured, supportive environment to help them succeed. It's also critical to recognize that the services provided at this new site will address the needs that already exist in the immediate neighborhoods. TCAA is not introducing problems to our community, they are providing solutions to problems that exist. Moreover, the new facility will offer a comprehensive array of programs that will benefit those seeking assistance. This includes the market-style food pantry, economic empowerment programs, and health and wellness services, resources that enhance the quality of life for everyone in the community. This project also represents a significant financial investment in our city. $8 million from the county and state dedicated to addressing homelessness right here in our city. This is a tremendous opportunity to leverage outside funding to tackle an issue that affects all of us. When we address poverty and homelessness, the benefits ripple outward. It reduces the strain on other city resources, increases public safety, and strengthens both individuals and neighborhoods. In the end, this project is a win for everyone. Thank you for your time, consideration, and leadership in making Tempe a place where everyone can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Janice Sundin. Please come forward. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Janice Sundin, and I am a Tempe resident for most of my life, and I'm also a priest at St. Augustine's Episcopal Church in Tempe. And as a congregation, we have been serving monthly meals through iHelp since about the beginning, about 2006. That's been hosted at various religious institutions around town. And we've had people of all ages provide and serve the meal, including young children and our youth group. And it's always been a positive community experience interacting with our neighbors and in the program. And until recently, we thought that we could not host iHelp at our property because we have a preschool on site. But we finally were able to figure out a way that we could host, and it's been a seamless experience. The group of participants does a great job of leaving things exactly as they found them, and you wouldn't even know that they had been there. There have never been any issues or complaints by neighbors or by anyone associated with the preschool. I understand the concerns named in the appeal, but having observed and helped with iHelp for many years, I do not believe that those fears will bear out with the actual program. It's a program designed to screen and support people who want to find permanent housing and live stable lives. And there is consistent monitoring and reinforcement of behavior expectations built into the iHelp community. This is a positive program that changes lives, and addressing homelessness and poverty will strengthen both individuals and the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Chris Blessington. Please come forward. State your name, city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Chris Blessington. I am a resident of Tempe, Arizona. I work for the ownership group of the apartment complex that's directly west of the proposed shelter at Apache and Lebanon. We have dealt with numerous situations regarding homeless individuals, both in and around our property, and we believe the proposed shelter replacing Watson Flowers will perpetuate this unfortunate reality. We hold the safety of our residents, staff, and community at large in the highest regard and would like the City Council to consider the movement of the proposed shelter to an alternate location for the following reasons. Direct access to the canal to the east and the railroad to the south perpetuate loitering in the area, resulting in vandalism of our property and increased safety concerns for our residents. We have had numerous such occurrences on site, resulting in the hiring of a security service on the property. Additionally, we are currently working with the City of Tempe to address homelessness in the area by reconfiguring the layout of our property along the south side. We believe the creation of a homeless shelter in the area will lead to further congregation loitering near our property, resulting in, again, heightened safety concerns for our residents. We are concerned that there is no permanent solution in the current proposal. Rather than the site being a permanent housing solution, the current proposed site does not offer much to eradicate homelessness for the long term in the immediate area. Rather than explain the potential issues with the current site, I would like to propose additionally a few alternative ideas for the City Council to consider regarding both the proposed site and alternative locations and homelessness in general. First, I think it would be interesting to divert attention and effort from the site at Watson's Flowers to the large site to the north of Apache Boulevard, where subsidized housing is proposed and appears to be under construction. Second, I would consider alternative uses of the park and ride lot at the southeast corner of Price and Apache. It's largely underutilized, and I've seen lots of activity there as well. Finally, I would consider the next light rail stop to the east at Sycamore and Main Street as a potential location for the shelter, where there's a large undeveloped site and underutilized parking lot. This area also has access to basic needs like a gym and grocery stores and direct access to transportation along the light rail. In conclusion, while we support the eradication of homelessness, we think there are other creative and less intensive issues that prioritize safety and well-being along Apache Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Charles Redmond. Please come forward, state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Charles Redmond, a Tempe resident for 41 years. I want to endorse this project and agree with a lot of what's been said in describing it. And I think I just have a couple of major points to make. And one is to reinforce the notion that this organization that's planning it has been very careful about it. This is not a 3-month activity. This has been years in the making, and it's innovative, it's creative, it's designed to treat people with greater respect and not as sort of disadvantaged people. And I think this is an important aspect for Tempe to be behind. I also think, if I've driven by there quite recently, this is a vast improvement to what's going on this property right now. And I think a lot of the kinds of problems that the neighbors are justifiably aware of or worried about are probably encouraged by the current condition of the property. If you notice from the slides, this is going to be an awesome building. There's going to be a staff of close to 50. There's hundreds of volunteers who come through. I think we're really going to change the neighborhood and the opportunities in the neighborhood. And I think you'll find that basically values will go up, and I think people will become part of it. And we heard from an earlier speaker that once this really gets underway, a lot of the residents may become volunteers rather than critics. So I hope you're able to support this project and deny this appeal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Adam Sofik. Please come forward, state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Sorry, I can't take off my hat. I was welding the whole day. But anyway,
Um, I live in Flagstaff, but I met my wife and started my family here in Tempe. So when I lost my job in Flagstaff, I came to the place that I best know closest, which is Tempe, and I found iHelp, and now I stay there. I got a full-time job working through Tempe Works, and now I'm working at the Apache, no, Priest and Rio Salado, the facility. So it's beautiful. If it wasn't for the program, honestly, because I have 4 children, and I came here with a purpose for a job to feed my 5 heads that I left behind in Flagstaff, I would be probably under the bridge, literally, because there's no way that I can afford to stay in a motel and work and send money to feed my children. My children don't live off of my love. They need food, believe it or not. So if it wasn't for this program, like I said, I would, God knows where I would be. So what I'm saying is it's a blessing, and it was actually pointed out to me by a Tempe police officer. I asked him, across the library there is Walmart, and when I got here I just had a backpack because I told my wife I have to go. There's no money. And when I got here, he pointed me out. I asked him, I was like, hey, I don't want to stay at the homeless shelter, but I want to stay with a program that will actually help me out. And that's where he pointed me. I help, I hope, stuff like that. That is actually for people that want to actually do it. And it's been great. It's actually the best thing that can happen. Even for a person as me, leaving my family to come here and make money, and hopefully convince my wife to move back down here. So, I mean, I have nothing bad to say about the program. Literally, because they do everything, background check, the whole 9 yards. So there's no fear of you. Oh,
Yep. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's time. So,
but I mean, it's. Anything else?
yeah, that's it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sorry, I've never done this before.
No, no worries. No. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Reginald Parsons. Please come forward, state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you for seeing me, Mayor. I'd like to speak very briefly in support of the iHelp program. If it really wasn't for that program, I don't know where I would be. I had my bouts of homelessness for a while, and back in Tucson, like I just ran out of opportunities. I was trying for work, I was trying everywhere. I got divorced, and things got hard, and they got hard real quick. I moved to Phoenix because I had the feeling that I have a chance to like make my life better. And with this program, it truly did change my life. Because without it, I don't know where I would be. That's the honest truth. That's all I got.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Shanna Ellis. Please come forward, state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes. Yes.
Hello, Shanna Ellis. Have been a Tempe resident for 48 years, but currently reside in Phoenix. Nice to be here, Mayor and Council. I want to talk a little bit about Tempe Community Action Agency as a nonprofit in Tempe. Doing the math on this was a little scary, but I've had the privilege of working with TCAA for 39 years. I started working at Tempe Community Council in 1986 and learned so much about the organization through the agency review process that Councilmember Chen mentioned earlier. Over the years, I stayed actively involved, and I now serve on their capital campaign committee for this very project. I stand here today because TCAA has been a part of more than 70% of my life. Yes, you can now figure out my age. And this project is crucial to their ongoing efforts to meet the needs of Tempe residents. Speaking of needs, I know it's been a minute since you received the presentation, but I would like to highlight an important point from Tempe's annual community survey for 2024. When residents were asked what they feel should be the city's priorities for the coming year, the top response was services for individuals experiencing homelessness. This project directly addresses that concern and offers meaningful solutions to the very issues your constituents have identified as critical. The City of Tempe has trusted TCAA to serve its most vulnerable residents for over 50 years. Each year, TCAA helps over 35,000 people, as was mentioned before, which is 1 in 7 Tempe residents. While many cities run their own community action programs, Tempe has consistently relied on TCAA to deliver these critical services year after year. I served on the Tempe City Council when we approved the use permit for the first iHelp emergency shelter run by TCAA. It was a controversial decision at the time, with significant public opposition. My colleagues and I approved the permit due to our ongoing partnership and trust with TCAA. And now, nearly 2 decades later, iHelp has become a model for similar programs across Maricopa County. I understand that decisions like this can be challenging, but I have full confidence that TCAA will collaborate closely with the neighborhood on this shelter, just as they have done successfully with multiple neighborhoods that host an iHelp shelter. As you may know, I work for an organization that collaborates on homelessness and housing services. I can spout off numbers all day about how shelter and affordable housing is needed, but I know you are aware of the challenges in numbers, so I'll end with a quick story to explain why I'm here in person. Back in the early 1990s, when I worked for Tempe Community Council, I was asked to send an email via the council communicator about TCAA services, its hours, its leadership, etc. It was my first council communicator message, and I was so nervous. Back then, hitting send triggered a spell checker that would offer to correct unknown words. It asked if I wanted to replace TCAA with taco. I was shaking so much I accidentally hit yes, so the council received an email describing taco services, taco hours, and taco leadership. That was my first and last council communicator message, so I'm here in person. If you haven't figured it out yet, I'm asking for your vote for yes. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Councilmember. Appreciate it. Next up is Irene Larios. Yes. Please come forward, state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
All right, I'm gonna put my glasses on.
Sure.
I'm at that age now. All right, good evening. My name is Irene Larios, and I am a resident and business owner in the Victoria Lanes community. 2 blocks, my house is located 2 blocks from the opposed proposal for the Valley Health and Housing Shelter. And my business is in Evergreen and University. I own 3 businesses there, a construction landscape design company, a decking company, and a pergola company. I'm also an ASU graduate. I'm an alumni. I'm also, I have several degrees, one in psychology. I'm a sociologist, and I have a master's degree in education and counseling with human relations services. And I'm establishing that for my credibility purposes. I'm also a member of the Tempe Chambers of Commerce, and I'm in the panel, member of the Citizens Panel for the Tempe Police Department for the use of force as well. I'm very involved in Tempe and my community. I moved to Acres 5 years ago to be closer to ASU, and because I saw a really great opportunity to, because of my construction company, to be in that neighborhood and help my neighbors as well to beautify their yards. And I just love the uniqueness of this neighborhood. Now, I also worked in the Tempe School District for over 10 years. I worked in the social services field, so I do have a lot of compassion for social services in anything children. I was a child activist, and I worked with drug-related prevention programs as well as homeless. And today I'm opposing this shelter in our community, not opposing to helping human beings and humanity. I'm opposing it to being relocated in an appropriate site. This community is already suffering a lot, and I have been a victim of violence. I have sicked my dogs at some homeless. Those were my weapons. It's on record with the Tempe police, but I didn't have any other choice. And another one I took, justice into my own hands, and I've also had theft in my home with my cameras, with these transients that are coming through this neighborhood. So it's not the fear that one was talking about the program. I love the program, I really do, but I've been victimized already. I've seen it. This is reality for me in my neighborhood. This is what it's all about. And I'm just breathing, like one of my neighbors said. Well, I'm loving the fact that I could go to my park now, that we have a park ranger that was funded in all the Tempe, the Tempe parks. Also, yes, there are a lot of, while homelessness shelters aim to help those experiencing homelessness, they can sometimes bring issues into our community, including increasing perception of crime, sanitation, hygiene, neighborhood blight, and substance abuse, and so forth.
I'm sorry,
But
that's
okay.
time. Yeah.
So I'm opposing this because I have witnessed it. I live it every day, and I just want the best for my community.
Thank
and
you.
This is a very underspoken community because of the socioeconomic
you.
status. So I urge you
Thank-
to at least give us more.
Thank you. I'm sorry, that's time. I'm sorry.
notifications. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
You're good. All right, the next speaker is Robert Guzman. Please come forward, state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, my name is Robert Guzman. I'm a Tempe resident, and I live 2 blocks down from Escare Park. And you're turning Bill's Market, where everybody used to buy chorizo, and it was famous at one time, to a homeless shelter. Now, we're not dealing with it's not a homeless situation. It's a drug problem. You see these people every morning, they're on blues. Everybody's nodded out. It's not your average family. It's a drug problem. I've caught guys sleeping in the bed of my truck, ready to go to work, and there's somebody, not my tools, but somebody sleeping in the back of my truck. And I understand the homeless problem. I really have compassion for them. I go to a place called the House of Refuge right here in, right up on the north side of Phoenix, and I'm a volunteer. I'm a preacher in the county jail. I've been there for 25 years. I preach on the Apache Reservation in San Carlos. So I'm involved with people continually. But this is a neighborhood where you're getting right down into the middle of the neighborhood. Is just not an appropriate pace. It's already suffering as it is. And so I just would like you guys to consider park it. What we need to do is start parking these places right next to a police department where the people feel safe at the same time, and we know that something's going to get done immediately. You call the police, and I love the police department. Tempe Police Department is outstanding. But to call them constantly and constantly and constantly and have people pass by your home. I don't smoke. I have cigarette butts right outside my door all the time. And so it's changed. It's really changed. The 4 corners of all the stores, Circle K on Apache and Circle K on University, they're packed in the morning. They're literally packed. The park, they're bathing outside in the park. It's not even a park anymore. And since when do we have park rangers at a park? I thought that was for the forest. And now we got park rangers at a park. And so it's drastically changed, and I would love for you guys to reconsider a different location not in the neck of the neighborhood that I live in. And believe me, I've been there for 22 years, so I've seen a lot of changes. A lot of changes have come and gone, but the last 3 to 4 years has really, really been bad. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Linda Russell. Quick question, Mr. City Attorney too. We're gonna have an interpreter here, and so they'll be a little bit longer than 3 minutes. How much time should I allow for additional time for?
Mayor, whatever you think is reasonable in light of the circumstances to accommodate the speaker's disabilities.
Let's do, if it's 3 minutes normally, let's do 6. Let's allow for double just to ensure we have enough time, so.
I want to stand in this direction, not as an insult or disrespect to you, but I want my deaf peers to be able to see me, because one interpreter can't sign in and speak at the same time, so no disrespect. And it's great to see you, Mayor. I've seen for a few years. It's nice to see you again. And thank you for the council members and for your commitment and your service to our community. I live at Apache Trails. I manage there and live there as well. I've lived there since it opened. I love my building and my deaf family that live there. We also, to let you know, we also prefer to be called deaf, not hearing impaired, but deaf. So everybody knows that we are the deaf community. We love to partner with the City of Tempe and Care 7. TCAA, they've been a great partnership with us. They really support us and my deaf community as well. So we're really thankful for them. We're blessed by them. The food services, the financial resources, there's a long list of things and that help my people that I love, the deaf community. I feel that they show great respect for me professionally, and they team with me as well. They listen to me. They came to my building and we requested what we had requested of them and they responded, and I wanted to thank them for that. I support TCA establishing this homeless center. Their resource center and living that are across from my building, and the reason is because for senior citizens going across, it's very difficult, but having it nearer, it would be a great easier for their services, for the deaf people in my community not having to traverse a dangerous intersection. And what happens, there is a time light at that intersection that is very short, and we really need it to be longer for the people, for seniors to have to jump and run and try and hurry up to pass through that wide intersection with that light. So if the city can extend the time limit on that walk light crossing Apache, I would appreciate that. And I hear about the concerns that people have about that neighborhood and the fear of the neighborhood degrading. And I encourage people to look at the big picture. What would the results be? What would happen? What could be accomplished? What improvements could happen in our community with this project? I understand the concerns with the issue about having a shelter there. That thing can happen. I've seen that a few things happen regardless. I've seen things that have happened, having to shoot people off of the property of Apache Trails, and I've had to clean up after that. That's happened a few times, yes. That is definitely true. We've had to deal with some issues, but I've always also had a wonderful response from the city, from the police, CS7, always a great response and always a positive response to solve any issues that we've had. So I've seen a decrease in the amount of problems that we've had of the events that have happened on my property. And I think we need to find more solutions for that. And I think because it is a gated building, loyalty, there's no that many, so I would look forward to working together in partnership with TCA. Help come to my building and help others around the area and keeps us updated about their progress. So I'm an advocate of TCA, and I look forward to seeing more solutions, their solutions, and the concerns related to the shelter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all the cards I have this evening. Is there anyone else wishing to address the council on this item? If so, please get my attention. Yes, sir? Please come down. Please hand your card to the clerk and then state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes. Hello, Mr. Riscare.
I'm Elias Esquer, and I'm doing it in self-defense because I want my name pronounced right. It's not Esquire, it's not Square, it's Esquer, right? I was in Victory Acres in 1946. It started in 1944 or 5. If I had it my way, I'd name it George and Maria Tipsherini, because those were the owners of the property, and they're the ones that subdivided the cow pasture so that we could go in there and live, because there were no other properties available. Anyway, it started out as a cow pasture, and they didn't level anything. They just put in the water and the electric, and there was it. And the flood irrigation, that's what drew a lot of people to Victory Acres, because they could have gardens. So they had flood irrigation. They no longer have that because, of course, you can't run a ditch in front of a house anymore. But anyway, there are a couple of houses that do. My brother-in-law still does that. Anyway, Tempe, La Victoria is what it is. La Victoria is an evolving community. It's not a steady community. It didn't come up like a development. Every house in La Victoria is actually unique because it was built one house at a time because of the redevelopment project that was started there in 1970. I was on the committee, but I didn't live there anymore because I had gone to school and I was teaching. But I was on the committee, the redevelopment committee for Victory Acres, and every house, I would say that 90% of the residents of La Victoria had their home either torn down or demolished by the project, the redevelopment project, because then we could go in there and build them a regular house. Because many of the houses were just shacks. They had been built during the time when Tempe and Mesa, there was a county, it was a county area, so you didn't have zoning laws, and we didn't have to follow any zoning laws.
I can give you another 15 seconds to finish up, but thank you.
All right, anyway, I'm Elias Esquer, and basically, like I say, I see the community as evolving from a cow pasture to mud streets to new streets and to, as a matter of fact, sidewalks, because sidewalks were not, so it keeps going. It's not going to remain the same. It's, nothing stays the same. Everything changes. So, and I see this TCAA, or rather TAC
Thank you.
program as
I gotta-
just part of that involvement. So anyway, thank you for hearing me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Iscaro. Good to see you.
All right.
Always.
Well, I was hiding.
I didn't recognize you under the hat at first until you got closer. So it's always good. It's always good to see you.
Thank you.
All right. Does anyone else wish to speak? If so, yes. Good evening, Ms. Johnson. Please state your name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Mayor, Council, my name is Jennifer Johnson. I'm a 50-year resident of Tempe, Arizona. I'm here just to not reiterate what was already said, but add a few points and just lend my support. First of all, I want to point out that these are people. We've talked about them with lots of different ways, but people, human beings like you and me, real people, people like our families and people like our friends. These are people in Tempe. You heard the numbers. 33,300 from Tempe out of 3,500. These services serve people already in our community, some with a variety of issues, yes, but already in our parks and in our communities. This location is on the light rail. That's a highlight I don't think was quite pointed out enough tonight. Again, it's not the whole solution, but you've committed, the community's committed to doing whatever we can, and this is something we can do. This also has already been, as pointed out, reviewed, hashed out, reviewed, and approved by the TCAA board, by your city staff, by the experts on your city staff, by the hired experts at TCAA, by the DRC that you entrust to review, ask questions, and look for challenges. They've already approved this. I ask for your support for this wonderful existing programmatic provider in Tempe and this wonderful partner in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other speakers this evening? If so, please please come forward, state your name and city of residence. I'm going to give this to Vice Mayor Garland. I will be right back.
Hi, my name is Maggie Pena. I've been a resident in Tempe for 50 years, and I grew up in the Victory Acres in the 80s. And we used to call it the LVL, which was La Victoria Loca. And growing up there, it was kind of not the best neighborhood, but over the years it's improved. And I think now we have it at a good place. I moved out of that neighborhood, but my parents still live there, so I go there 2-3 times a week. And they live by the Esquier Park. And it's gotten so bad there that they had to have a 24-hour person that sits in a car overlooking the park, just because it's gotten so bad with the homeless population. It's a park for little kids. They have a playground there, but little kids can't even go there because of the homeless people. The homeless shelter would be really close to that park, but the little kids play. So it's just not a good idea. And we're not against, helping the homeless and giving them somewhere to stay, but it's just not the right place for it because it's right in the middle of a neighborhood. And it's a small lot. There's no way, that picture they showed you with the nice programs and stuff, there's no way, because that lot is really small. It's twice this room. So I don't know where they're getting all these, it's a gated community with all these programs. There's just no way. And that's it. I object. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council? If so, please get my attention. All right. Seeing none, I will close the public testimony portion of the public hearing. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Appreciate it. I'm going to bring the appellant, Albert Avalar, back up for a response to the public comments as well as a summary statement. Oh, is there another? Hold on, before. Madam Clerk, is there another card?
No, that was.
Oh,
the
just the
last
previous one?
speaker.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, Mr. Avalar, please come out. Just want to see, sir, if you had any response to what was said, or you want to just have a concluding kind of wrap-up statement.
Well, my response is just is what it was when at the onset of my comments is I have a negative attitude toward it, and so far I haven't seen. I've seen many people that in professional status that are of higher education than me present it in a more articulate manner. But the bottom line is, to the people in Victory Acres, their wishes should be considered above the professionals that don't reside there. So, with that said, that's all I have to say.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Now I'm going to bring back up the original applicant, RSP Architects and Tempe Community Action Agency representatives to see if they have a response to the public comments and if they want to present a summary statement.
Mayor and Council, thank you. I don't have anything to add other than the evolution of the conversation tonight is exactly what human service planning is about, exactly the legacy that TCA has in developing and evolving our programs over time, especially, particularly in response to changing community needs. And this project is like all others that we've operated over the 50-plus years we've been in business. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Virginia, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Arteaga, were you able to check on that date for that public meeting? Thanks.
Okay, while she checks on that, Councilmember, I'll look to see, are there any further comments or discussion amongst ourselves here before? Oh, Councilmember Adams?
Yes, first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. This is a very critical issue. I would feel really good if we would do a community outreach. I've preached this for the last 6 years with the neighborhoods and have an official and have staff there also. And I think that would really give us more information because I feel like we don't have enough information yet about the neighborhoods and how people feel about it. I know that you did do an outreach, but I would like it to be more of an official one with the city involved and the proper paperwork and things, because that's something that is consistent in what I believe. The neighborhoods or the neighbors around wherever they are, whatever the issue is, they're the experts in their neighborhood. So I just want to.
I'm sorry, like no clapping. I'm sorry.
I just think it's important to really have that be an official thing. Maybe I've worked in the bureaucracy for so long, but I just think that would be helpful for me personally to hear that feedback.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Chin, that was November 9th.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Any other comments from council? Okay, I just have one on my end, and just thank you everyone for the presentations this evening. One of the things I was wondering about, because the main thing that I saw in some of the comments from some of the folks who were concerned about this being proposed to this area, the main word that sort of stuck out to me, because it was in several emails, was security. I saw that several times, and I don't have a ton of concerns about the project. I obviously I'm very familiar with Tempe Community Action Agency and all the work that they've done in the city of Tempe, South Scottsdale, and frankly, the entire region for well over 50 years. Full disclosure, and a lot of people all know this, I talk about it regularly. I was a board member for TCA from 2006 to 2012, so very familiar with the organization and its mission and what it does. The one thing that popped up, though, was in terms of, I said, the residents' concerns was security, and I'm wondering if there would be some way, just sort of as an added measure of, frankly, security for the residents in the surrounding area, to see, and this is probably, I guess, a staff question, probably for someone within the Tempe Police Department, perhaps Mr. Tamulevich, but a way to incorporate some kind of a security plan that would be enforceable for the proposal here. I wonder, that's the kind of thing, I don't have all the specifics of what that might look like per se, but quite honestly, that's one of the things that I've personally thought in reading a lot of the comments might make a lot of the residents a lot more comfortable. And so could someone speak to what a security plan might look like? Who from the staff would frankly have to review and approve such a plan? I'm thinking it's probably the Tempe Police Department, but I want to just double check. Oh, Commander Hill?
He's a wingman.
Yeah, the security plan ordinance does not call out homeless shelters specifically. It does define a hotel and motel, with the definition being any building that has 5 shelters or places or more. So it may qualify in that, and I'd have to lean to the city attorney if that definition, or based on calls for service and what takes place at the operation, then the chief can then come back and say, well, based on the calls for service, it's going to require one. And so those can happen. The applicant could always say, hey, we would like one. And then we can partner with them. They're not punitive by any stretch. Right. They are there to help the applicant. And so that's the security plans. So if the applicant said, hey, we would like a security plan, we'd like to partner with them and try to provide it. But based on that definition, and again, I'd look to the city attorney for that to say, it's not called out specifically, but under the hotel or motel, it may qualify as having 5 shelter beds or more.
Sounds good. So. Thank you, Commander Hill. Jeff, anything you want to add, or?
No, Mr. Mayor, council members, what was stated here is absolutely correct. I will state that if the council were to choose to add a condition to add or require a security plan, my understanding is that would be allowed by code.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. And just a quick question as well to our city attorney, just since this is a quasi-judicial hearing. That would be, to Jeff's point, would that be perfectly appropriate if we wanted to potentially modify the DRC's decision to add a security plan as a, if we were going to deny the appeal, let's say? Are we allowed to actually do that in our role? Stipulation.
Mayor, yes, the Commander Hale referred to the standard code requirements, which is actually part of the police required security plan, but there's also provisions for that. Under the use permit criteria and the appeal rules, the council can add conditions or modify the appeal. So addressing the security concerns, one of the things you could do is add and modify the decision of the DRC to add a requirement that the developer owner have a security plan in place as a part of condition of the use permit. So that's perfectly acceptable under the zoning code as well.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Adams?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for helping him out. Good thing he has you. Anyway, can we also add a public meeting, like a more official public meeting, just so we cover that base too one more time?
Mayor Woods, Councilmember Adams, it's difficult. I think you could ask that the applicant do that as an additional thing, but the public meeting would be occurring after you made your decision, so you could require that they provide information or make an outreach as part of the stipulation as well. So but I'm not sure what you want the results of the public meeting to be, I guess.
Well, I want to have city staff involved, like we typically do with public meetings. And I would just feel more comfortable having staff involved and having, Deborah and company. I see you.
Mayor Woods, council member. In that scenario, the recommendation I would make is that you, rather than is you remand it back to the DRC with instructions to them to have the applicant hold a public hearing and then decide if their decision is still appropriate after that public hearing, if it
Okay.
would be the way to go with that route.
Okay, that's what I would like to do then, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Keating?
Thank you, Mayor. About the security plan, so can you just walk us through like what that looks like? Say we require the site as a stipulation for denial of the appeal, that they have some sort of security plan in place. I assume that like Tempe PD comes to the property, does kind of like an assessment of the security needs. If there's, I'm sure that they have plans for some sort of security features on their own. And then is there like levels of what you're looking for in security? I mean, just walk the public through what exactly that looks like. And then would that be then mandatory for that building? So I imagine like a security plan could be something as simple as installing cameras, or it could be something as complex as having a uniformed officer there 24 hours a day. So could you just kind of walk us through what that looks like as far as what the burden would be, not necessarily burden, but the obligation to TCAA would be if something like that was in place?
You bet. So security plan looks at tailoring all of the plan to the specific site and the uses on that site. And so it covers everything, as you mentioned, from CPTED principles, crime prevention to environmental design, looking at what recommendations they might need to do to target harden their location. Again, it's very site specific. Right. So it doesn't cover anything in the surrounding neighborhoods or adjacent to it, but it's covering that site, right? They talk about the hours of operation, and based on those hours of operation, then what they might entail, when security might need to be there, how many people will be sheltering there, and then they'll go in and talk about what maybe a security person needs to wear, what the uniform looks like, so they're identified as security. So they just kind of go through based on what the applicant is saying is going to take place on the property, and then based on those uses, they try to tailor make a security plan that's going to help benefit them and kind of give them industry standards. And the client oftentimes, or the applicant, knows the industry better than the officer, right? And so they're going to say, these are the kinds of things we've experienced on the other side. Then the officer would say, to help mitigate any of those threats, then this is our recommendation for those kind of things. And so it's really a cooperative conversation and working with the applicant to make sure that the security plan supports their needs. And then there's a review process, so that once a year they review it. So if there's some kind of intensification of use or a different use that takes place, then might have to adjust the plan with them. And or if in midway throughout the year, something calls for service, start dictating there's an issue that they might need to go back in and talk to them and adjust that plan. And so it really is a living document, so they can work with and try to keep a safe environment, not only for the applicant, but also for the surrounding community.
Thank you, I appreciate that answer. So if I'm understanding correctly, then Tempe PD would work with TCAA to develop some sort of approach to giving confidence that there's proper security at the property. That would be added as stipulation to the appellate process. And then now that's enforceable by Tempe PD to make sure that that security plan is being upheld. You guys do inspections and things like that down the road?
Yes,
is that correct?
It is enforceable. And so that's, if they start deviating from that plan, which they agree to, and then yes, it's an enforceable plan. And so there's violations that can occur.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, I might also add that, if a condition was applied to the use permit, then that use permit condition of approval would also need to be enforced, and that would be enforced by the Community Development Department. So they would have to comply with the security plan in order to comply with the use permit conditions of approval. So, in a sense, they're on the hook for both the security plan and the use permit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Amberg? Oh, Councilmember Chin?
Thank you. People mistake us all the time.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Just first a comment, and I feel like I need to say this. No, I know there's been great support from the neighborhoods and for TCAA tonight. Know this, that this body sitting up here and our staff in Tempe have committed more than $19 million last year in resources to address the unsheltered issue. So we are partners and not trying to rebuke anyone for any plans. We're looking at a very narrow scope of an issue tonight. In the presentation, there was a point of pride listed. I think it was the very first one. And I think it was important that TCAA has been in the La Victoria neighborhood since 1966. I think I saw that correctly. Nods? Thank you. I think that's important to be a good neighbor also. Given recent legislation, I think it is legally and practically sound to request a security plan that Councilmember Keating mentioned. And I think we need to really take a look at that. We've got a new set of rules now that we as a city need to follow also when it comes to Proposition 312 and those parameters. And I think that's important to note. And we have to take that into consideration. So I don't think a security plan is an unreasonable request for this project. Also, in being a good neighbor, I don't think we can have a public meeting the way we have previously because we're past that in this conversation. But perhaps given the project and the plan, we include some sort of outreach and communication with the neighbors and businesses in the area in a more open and transparent and public way. I think that would be important. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Well, let me go to Councilmember Amberg, and then I'll come back. So,
Mr. Mayor, I'm kind of going to echo a little bit what my colleague said. This vote is not about TCAA and the programs that it provides. I don't think you could find a single one of us sitting up here that does not absolutely 100% support everything that you do. We've not just supported it, but we've done it by action. We've done it by money. We've done it by us donating hours upon ourselves for some of these programs. What this vote is about is whether or not the project itself complies with the city use permit process and its requirements. It has absolutely nothing to do with the iHelp program. I think it's fantastic. Any of those programs. What we're being asked today is to vote on one thing that it is specific, and it's whether or not this project requires with our use permit requirements. And I will say with the addition of a safety plan, I feel a lot better about it, but I do have one question about that. Is there a way that the safety plan can be almost like a living document? Because we don't have anything right now in code that has anything to do with shelters or any of these programs right now. So we're just kind of flying blind with a security plan like this. Is there a way to write it to where when problems arise in the future that could possibly occur that we just couldn't foreshadow that or foresee it? Is there a way to go back and make changes to that security plan?
Yes, and when the security plan is agreed upon initially, again, if we start to have issues, we can always go back with the applicant and say, hey, we're experiencing these issues, we need to try to mitigate those concerns, and these are the recommendations to do that. And so we try to open it back up and then make the changes, and then we need them to be agreed upon, and then we sign the renewal and then continue on.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Councilmember Adams?
Yes, I think that's a great idea, Councilmember Chin and Councilmember Amberg, about adding the homeless shelters and things to our security plan. That seems like a win-win to me. And also it really establishes a partnership with the organization and our police department, which I think is good. And also Eric Anderson said that we could have it tacked on to DRC for them to work on the public outreach, correct?
Councilmember Adams, if you wanted to, there's two. I thought of another option. I apologize. So,
okay.
So if you wanted, you could add a condition that the security plan include a public outreach as part of the security plan process. That the PD, and I'm opposing, and I've turned to Commander Hale and make sure that's going to work with them, but they could include part of their security plan process is a review of the site and everything, and then you would be further in and as part of the use permit, they could require to have some public outreach approved by the city as part of the security plan process. Alternatively, if you still wanted to weren't sure on the use permit itself, my recommendation would be that you send it back to DRC with instructions to have a public outreach and then have DRC consider whether its decision is still appropriate in light of that public outreach and report back. So I think there's two options there, but if you wanted to just add that to the security plan process, I think that is an option as well.
Yeah, I think that's the best approach, in my opinion, to do it that way. We could have both. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Hodge?
Okay, thank you. This is probably one of the hardest decisions because as our colleagues has been saying, it's not that we don't support the process and the programs we have, but I also hear my residents talking too, and I understand, you know, there's mixture on both sides. So my question is, if it goes past and we do put the security plan in there, I'm asking TCAA if we pass it the way it is, are you going to keep? I want to make sure that our residents know that they're being heard. So if there is a way that you can set up something so you could have maybe not just an annually, but more of a periodically, quarterly conversation with them to see if there is concerns, situations that they can address and talk to you about with it also, if it's affecting their area. So that question, I guess, is more for you on that area.
Thank you, Councilmember Hodge. To the security plan, our site that's on Apache on the west side of the 101 is a site where we have invited Tempe Police on an annual basis to come visit the site with us, to look at security risks, to understand the traffic that comes into the building now, and to help us identify how we can continue to maintain a safe place, not just for our staff, but for our clients and for the neighborhood surrounding. This is not something that is unusual or unique for us. We wholeheartedly support that and absolutely open to continuing on a regular basis to share the security plan, to visit with Tempe Police, to make modifications as needed, because safety and security is important to us and the neighborhood. You bet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Garland?
I just want to say thank you so much for everybody who came to talk to speak on this issue. Whether it was the letters that we've already received or the people who were speaking here. That for me. And the people that came in support of TCAA. I just want to say thank you so much because it's important to have you be a part of that process. What we're specifically dealing with here right now is kind of like what Councilmember Amberg had said. It's very narrow, very specific about the appeal. So I wrote down some notes to make sure that I don't mess this up. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to move to deny the appeal, but modify the decision of the Development Review Commission so that the conditions shall be added to the use permit that the owner operator of the property shall have at all times an approved security plan that meets the criteria of Chapter 26, Article 5 of the City Code.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Do I have a second? Okay, yeah, do you want to add on to that?
That the security plan should also include a public outreach.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Great, all right. Okay, do I have a second on that motion? Seconded by Councilmember Chin. All right, just once again, just want to reiterate this item is for an appeal of the DRC's decision to approve a use permit to allow an institution providing temporary housing in the CSS zoning district for the East Valley Health Housing and Human Services Center located at 2423 East Apache Boulevard. There is a motion on the table by Vice Mayor Garland and a second by Councilmember Chin. Any further comments or questions? All right, hearing, and let me just make sure to make sure our city attorney, so the vote here, a vote of aye will deny the appeal and add the conditions that Vice Mayor Garland talked about.
Mayor, that's correct. Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify
And
for the
just
audience.
if I may, just to clarify, those are conditions that will become part of the use permit as Mr. Tamalevich pointed out. So they would attach to the use, and if the applicant wasn't following them, then their use permit would be subject to further review under the city code. So.
Okay, once again, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. So once again, with all that said, any further comments or questions? With that, please vote. And that vote passes 7-0. And if I can, let me maybe read that just in case so everybody understands exactly. Mr. Anderson, actually, would you like to repeat back actually what that motion, I know that's a stranger motion than what we normally do, but just so for the folks in the audience and anyone watching at home, just so there's full clarity on what the council just voted for.
So, Mayor, if you don't mind, I'll start at the beginning. So,
the show is yours, my friend.
So under the city code, the Development Review Commission is vested with decision-making authority on use permits. In this instance, the DRC granted the use permit, but there wasn't any conditions for a security plan or anything. The appeal in this case asked the council to overturn the DRC's decision and effectively deny the use permit. The effect of the motion, and second, it's now been passed, is that the appeal is not upheld, so the use permit will stand, but this council, under the authority it's provided in the code, has added conditions to the use permit that that require a security plan. The factors, there's a number of factors set forth in the city code that was referenced that PD regularly uses for security plan. And then an additional factor that would require a public outreach component of that security plan was also added as a stipulation. Those will be part of the use permit that attaches to this property. So anytime the use continues in that's subject to the use permit, they'll be required to remain in compliance with the stipulations that the council's added tonight.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Mr. Anderson. Okay, sounds good. Well, that ends item 8A1. So that takes us to item 8A2, which is to approve the utilization of a one-year Sourcewell cooperative contract with National Automotive Parts, a division of Genuine Parts Company, to operate an on-site inventory parts store. Council, any comments or discussion? Okay, nope, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Garland, seconded by Councilmember Amberg. Please vote. We're voting. We're waiting.
Hey, I'm gonna win the.
You are. You're the only one.
Okay, and that item passes 7-0. The last item under the section is 8A3, which is award a construction manager at risk. Okay, just want to make sure too, we're going to need quiet in the council chambers because we still got to finish up this meeting. So any conversations, we would need to have them outside. Okay. So I'll read this one again. To award 8A3, award a construction manager at risk contract to Core Construction Incorporated for project number 6708841S, Municipal Complex Improvements, GMP 1 at City Hall.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Adams, seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. And that item passes 7-0. All right, let's see. Next section here, non-consent agenda. Ordinances items for introduction and first hearing. There are no items scheduled under this section for this evening. So the last section on the non-consent agenda is ordinances and items scheduled for second hearing and final adoption. So votes on these items will be taken this evening. The first item under the section is 8C1, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance amending the Tempe City Code, Chapter 2, Article 5, Section 2-182, related to limitation of terms and number of positions for boards and commissions.
Motion to approve.
It's been moved by Councilmember Adams, seconded by Councilmember Hodge. Just want to note.
Yeah, but we have to do it here.
No, I just want to.
Oh, public.
Okay, hold on here. Just want to know. Okay.
We got really excited there, Corey.
Okay, that's okay. This evening, just want to let the public know, there's a motion and a second on the floor, but I want to make sure to once again let the public know here in the audience and at home. So this evening, we're considering an ordinance to update term limits and service provisions for city boards and commissions. As part of this update, I want to clarify a key point that was brought to my attention by our city attorney. So it was noted that some boards or commissions have designated terms of 1 or 2 years instead of the standard 3-year term. The intent of this ordinance is not to limit service on these boards or commissions to just 2 years. Therefore, the ordinance includes specific language allowing members of these boards or commissions to serve additional terms, provided their total service does not exceed an aggregate of 6 years. So I'm going to read the amended language for section 2-182 into the record. Quick question on that, Mr. City Attorney, since the motions were already made and seconded, would you like those to be withdrawn so I can read this language and then resubmit it?
Mayor, I don't think that's necessary. I think you can hold the motion.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we were good. Okay, thank you so much. So, unless otherwise further limited by the enabling ordinance for such board or commission, members of the board and commission may not serve more than 2 total terms on any one board or commission. Provided, however, if a member is appointed to a board or commission which has a term of service of 2 years or less, such member may serve an aggregate of terms on such board or commission that do not exceed an aggregate total of 6 years. This provision applies to both regular and alternate positions. So once again, there also is a public hearing item. So is there anyone wishing to speak during the public testimony portion of the public hearing? If so, please get my attention. All right, seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public testimony portion of the public hearing. Council members, any comments or discussion? All right, seeing none, there's been a motion made by Councilmember Adams and a second by Councilmember Hodge. Please vote. And that item passes 7-0. The next item under the section is 8C2, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance to transfer a portion of the capital improvement program project number 5410180, Vision Zero infrastructure improvements, to provide sufficient funding to complete project number 6010769, transportation master plan. That's exactly how I feel, Councilmember Garb, when I'm reading those. This is also a public hearing item, so I would open up the public testimony portion. If there's anyone wishing to speak, please get my attention now. Okay, seeing none, I will close the public testimony portion of the public hearing. Council members, any comments or discussion?
Second.
Been moved by Councilmember Hodge and I think seconded by Councilmember Keating, I believe.
I was going for the motion.
Oh.
I'll take the second.
I'll give you the second on this one then. So please vote. And that passes 7-0. The next item under the section is 8C3, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance to transfer a portion of the capital improvement program, project number 5499741, roadway mill and overlay, and reconstructions, to provide sufficient funding to complete project number 6008961, bike and pedestrian improvements, Country Club Way from ASU Research Park to US 60 pedestrian bridge. This is also a public hearing item. If there's any public testimony, please get my attention. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public testimony portion of the public hearing. Council members, any comments or discussion?
Comment.
Oh, yes, Councilmember Adams?
Do you want to do the first and second first and then do the discussion?
Sure, absolutely. So moved by Councilmember Keating, seconded by Councilmember Hodge. Councilmember Adams.
Yes, I'm very supportive of this project and providing safe bike lanes. It's so important that we get people out of their cars, and biking is one of the great resources that we can use, and I'm glad we're making it safer for bicyclists, and I completely support this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and great catch on the Robert's Rules of Order, Councilmember Adams. I appreciate that. So it takes a village up here, I promise you. All right, with that said, there's been a motion and a second. Please vote. And that item passes 7-0. The last item under the section is 8C4, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance to transfer a portion of the capital improvement program, project number 6710829, energy hubs and microgrids, to provide sufficient funding to complete project number 6708281L, interior space planning and vision center kitchen, located at 1310 East Apache Boulevard. This is also a public hearing item, so if there's any public testimony on this item, please get my attention. Okay, seeing that, I'll close the public testimony portion of the public hearing. Council members, any comments or discussion? Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Amberg, seconded by Councilmember Keating. And discussion? Yes. Anyone have any discussion on this one?
Yes, I do.
Yes, Councilmember Adams, please.
Very excited about I'm very excited about the Envision Center and adding the kitchen to it. I think this is a win-win, and it's a great place for everyone to attend and to learn and grow. So I'm very supportive of this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other comments from council? All right, seeing none, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote. And that item passes 7-0. That brings me to item number 9, current events, council announcements, and future agenda items. Once again, council members may request that an agenda item be added to a future council meeting during their allotted time, but in accordance with the open meeting law, there should be no discussion on the item other than to clarify the request. So I'll call upon council members for their comments, and this evening, I'm going to start with Vice Mayor Garland.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to talk about the Young Women's Conference, Shine Your Light. I want to thank Tim Birch and Delano LaForce in Community Health and Human Services for their support in making the Shine Your Light Conference a reality. The conference is March 22nd. In partnership with Rio Salado, we have created an event for young women ages 14 to 22 to learn more about how to navigate career opportunities, leadership, health, and financial wellness. And these are topics that our young women were interested in. Industry speakers in high-tech, construction, finance, education, and health services will share their experiences and insights to empower attendees to lead and to succeed. Registration is now open and it's free to attend. Register through my website. You can go to www.tempe.gov/Garland and you'll be able to get to the registration paperwork. The conference is sponsored by Google Fiber, Landings Credit Union, Sunt Construction, and Honor Health. A companion Shine Your Light mentoring program is also included. And if you'd like to sponsor or to be a sponsor or to be a mentor, please contact my assistant parish spies at tempe.gov. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. Next up, Councilmember Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to ask that we keep the residents of Southern California in our minds with the fires that are going on. It's absolutely devastating and incredible to see. As you know, my girlfriend's from that area. Thankfully, her family is safe, but the fires are threatening where her family lives. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and ask that we keep those folks in our minds. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Councilmember Adams.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To plunge or not to plunge, that is the question. The annual Polar Plunge pre-party is tomorrow night from 4:30 to 7:30 at Spokes on Southern. So I'd really encourage you to attend. It's a great fundraiser. It actually helps kids with special needs and in recreational programs. So please plan on attending that. Like I said, it's 4:30 to 7:30, and there'll be a silent auction and a raffle. The actual Polar Plunge will be at the Lakes Clubhouse this Saturday, the 11th. Check-in begins at 8 a.m., and then you can plunge in the pool at 9. So the cost is $25 if you pre-register and $30 if you wait till the morning of. And you get a cool t-shirt, yummy snacks, hot beverage, and bragging rights because you survived. And the next slide I have is Dance Tempe. Join us for Dance Tempe from 7 to 8:30 p.m. this Tuesday, January 14th at the Tempe Center for the Arts, one of my favorite places in town. This free dance showcase will feature 3 professional resident dancers and their dance companies, as well as student dancers from all 6 of our Tempe Union High Schools. That's right. Dance Tempe is an annual program created by the Tempe Community Arts to help support our young dancers, as well as foster the work of local dance educators and professional dance artists. We hope that you can join us for the celebration and dance, and it's free. Finally, today is a National Day of Mourning for President Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was our 39th president and was our longest living president ever when he passed away at 100 years old on December 29th. He leaves behind a lifelong legacy of activism, public service, and humanitarian work. Our hearts go out to his family and to our nation as we mourn the passing of this great man. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor his life and legacy. Thank you. That's all my announcements. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, appreciate it. Next up, Councilmember Chin. No, okay, thank you. Next up, Councilmember Hodge.
Yes, I am proud and excited to finish my chapter on Sandy Hook with the Sandy Hook Promise with my breakfast with Verdetta. We're going to have Sandy Hook, the organization there. We're going to have representatives from the city of Tempe, and we'll also have our school districts there so we can finish up a panel and discussion on it, and we're going to allow the community to sign the Sandy Hook Promise at that time. Their families and them can sign. It's going to be a great thing. So if you have time after the polar plunge to come to my breakfast at 10 a.m. to noon at the Tempe Historical Museum. On February 1st, as everybody know that in our city, and not just in our city, but in our community and state and nation, that enrollment is declining for our community, and this is a way that the school districts came to me and the city and asked if we would help with a city expo to have enrollment. So we're going to have like a fair on February 1st from 9 to noon. It's at the Tempe Community Complex at our Felder Library. And we'll have highlights of all our school district, well, mostly Tempe Union, and all of our programs that feed into our schools from the city there. And you get a chance to enroll and get a chance to meet the principals and the superintendent and just, get a feel of what it feels to have be in a public school in the city of Tempe. So if you don't have anybody and you know someone else that has someone, please let them know about that program and the chance to get to see what our public schools are about. And also, I want to congratulate all of our MLK Diversity Award winners. That our award breakfast will be on Monday, and also to let you know that our city closure we'll have city closure for MLK Day on Monday, January 20th. And also, I just want to say that I was honored to be with the mayor and Councilmember Adams at the Captain's Memorial. It was a beautiful memorial. I want to thank our fire department, our police department for all they put into it, all the passion and love it showed. And I just also want to give one more last thank you to our captain. He was a phenomenal man, is what we've heard and learned. And I've met him a couple of times, and just a lot of thoughts to his family and his extended family for fire and police. And I just have one last one that I didn't do a slide on, but this is important to me, I guess. We lost one of our pioneers in our city. It was Mrs. Mosley, Geneva Mosley. When maybe a few months ago, I brought her in because we named, used to be Gillen Middle School after her. Her name is Geneva Mosley, and she passed away 4 days ago. And she's a legend in her own time. She was the first African-American to actually teach in the Tempe Elementary School District, the very first. And for a very long time, she was the only for maybe 10 to 15 years. So I would like to ask you guys, as a long time, over 50 years resident of the city of Tempe and an employee of the school district who taught many of our families, to give her a quick moment of silence for her time and dedication she gave to our city and our kids. I thank you. And her memorial is January 17th if anybody wants to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Councilmember Amberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a lot of people know and have seen my signs during the campaign, I was actually born and raised in South Louisiana, actually south of New Orleans. A lot of people don't know I was actually in New Orleans over New Year's Eve visiting my mom and my brothers and all of their families. And the night before New Year's Eve, I was with my mom and my daughters in the French Quarter We'd gone to see the Nutcracker. It was her Christmas present, and we went out to dinner in the French Quarter. Spent the night there, and then went back down to Houma, Louisiana, which is where my mom lives, on New Year's Eve. Everybody knows what happened there. I want to thank my colleagues and all of my friends that called me the day, or texted me the day after. Councilmember Hodge actually called me at the crack of dawn, which is even earlier here than it is in Louisiana, to make sure that I was okay, because she knew I was going to be in the French Quarter the night before. And I even had the city manager text me that day and told me that I wasn't allowed to go to the Sugar Bowl that had been rescheduled. She piled on with my mom because my mom said no to, and which was a big deal for us because I'm a very football-centric family, which I'm sure a few of you know. So I just want to thank everybody for that. New Orleans is very resilient. The culture, the community, the people that are there tried to drown us with Katrina. That didn't happen. They are going to rise again after this. So if everybody could just keep their thoughts and prayers with the city and with the victims and their families, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any remarks this evening, so I will move to item number 10, public appearances. I do have one card this evening from Michael George. Is Michael George here?
We wore him out.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to address the council? If so, please come forward and state your name and city of residence for the record. Okay, seeing none, that takes me to item number 11, which is adjournment. The next scheduled regular city council meeting is going to be on January 23rd, 2025. We are adjourned. Have a great evening, everyone.